Everybody, this be your boy DJ Anonymous with Sports Biz Music, the podcast, episode 89, and I got a special guest on the show today. I got my boy Joe. How you doing, man?
I'm good, DJ Anonymous. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. This weather is kind of, it's kind of crazy. I had got sick earlier this week, but it's going. I guess it's going well.
Yeah, this weather was not kind to us today, but yeah.
Yeah, man. Did you watch the game last night?
I was actually at a charity event, so I caught like bits and pieces of it, but it was crazy. Seeing the Raptors win their first title, that was pretty cool. It's just a shame that you couldn't really see a full healthy, Warriors team, but it was still it was historic. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Did you get a chance to check it out?
Yeah, I had actually watched the whole game with my wife, and I was happy but sad at the same time because I'm a Heat fan, but I've been a fan of the Warriors too as well since 2007, and I just been following them for a long time, and just to see how they lost and went down. But I mean, Kawhi, I like Kawhi, and it was good for the city of Toronto to win their first championship. It kind of reminded of when we won our first championship in 06, so.
Mm-hmm.
That's a feeling that'll never go away. But before we get into questions and everything, tell the people about yourself a little bit.
So right now I work for the Miami Heat organization. I'm one of their content writers, so I kind of like things that happen in the game. I kind of write previews of the games, recaps of the games, featured articles, things of that nature. Manage the website as well. So sports writing is always something that's been a passion of mine, and writing English in school, in elementary school, middle school, high school is kind of amusing to me. So it's something that I naturally was drawn to, and it was easy for me. So that's kind of turned it into a career. Oh, and I probably should mention I went to University of Miami for journalism and sport admin, double major. So it's rare and I'm blessed to be in the field that I went to school for, because I know there's a lot of people that they get their degree and then it's hard to find a job in that field, and then needing to kind of pivot a little bit. So I am truly blessed to be in the position I am today.
Yeah, because in the sports industry in general, I'm getting my doctorate right now from St. Thomas, in sports administration, and it's very, I had to explain to people that the sports industry is seen big, but it's very small, especially from the people I have interviewed, the professionals I have interviewed so far on my podcast. And then, they were telling me the same thing, it's very hard, even when, some people get lucky and get right into their career, within the sports industry, whether it's medicine or in the media or, as either working for a professional team or as an agent. And then some people have to wait 5 years, 5, maybe 10 years, you look at Dob Swinney, I think he went to real estate before he started back, being the head coach. It's crazy. It's just how amazing, how anything could just happen in this industry, and I feel like that's the beauty of being in the sports industry.
Definitely, and a couple of things I wanted to hit on that you just reminded me of. So yeah, it is it seems large, but it's also very small, and it's also very important to the sports industry is really it's a lot about connections. I mean, kind of any field is, but the sports industry especially, because it is very small, like you said. And one that talking about Dr. Sweeney, one of my good friends actually he's working his way up the ladder as a coach. Mm-hmm. He coaches. So I went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School for football. I'm good at football. My friend played football there. I went there. I was just a regular student. he played football, and now he's working his way up the ranks as he was a receiver, so he coaches receivers and like quality control, I think, coach. Actually, he's gonna hit me first, but I forgot where he was at Wake Forest last year.
Okay.
But he went somewhere else. So yeah, the coaching industry is a whole different animal. That is crazy. And one thing I do want to mention, though, that the sports industry is very tough, like you said. So I had 3 internships while I was in school, like throughout my time, and even with that, I still wasn't. I didn't get a full-time gig right out of school. I mean, it took like 6 months. I got like discouraged. I graduated in May 13, and then sending things out continuously that whole summer. And thankfully, I got a part-time seasonal job at Sun Sentinel. But it was tough to get actually back into the sports industry. It's very tough. There's so much demand. There's so many people that be in it. And but the thing I would kind of advice I'd give to people is never lose hope. Never burn bridges, and just don't think that don't think a job is ever don't think you're above a job, basically. Right. Never, because if you do that, then you'll definitely get into some trouble, especially in the sports industry, because it's all about working your way up, all about paying your dues. So that's kind of like my advice I would give.
So so tell us a little bit about your beginnings. Like, what made you want to get into journalism in general?
Right. So yeah, like I said, English kind of just came throughout school. English came easy, and I started writing. Like I would write, just write stuff. I wrote poems like a long time ago. Like I would write a poem, whatever. Just writing was something I liked. It was kind of nerdy, but it's something I always liked. It's something that again came easy, and I constantly work at it every day. It's something to always, no one's perfect in anything, and I'm far from it. And it's a challenge. And it's fun to always try to work on it and work on storytelling and work on meeting not only athletes but people and telling their story and things of that nature. Kind of like what you do on an audio level with your podcast. Yeah, so it came easy, and not easy, but it came natural to me, and I just, again, turned it into a career. Right,
because, I just started this podcast probably like a year ago, almost 2 years ago, and, I have, other professions that's content writers, bloggers, etc., like yourself, and I had them on the show, and, I want to tell you, I told them, I really appreciate y'all because y'all do so much work. People don't understand that, y'all be up probably all night writing different articles, and you gotta get a critique, and then you have to get it approved, and then once it's released, I know one thing. I spoke to somebody from the Athletic, and he was telling me that cause he's a beat writer for Ohio State. And he was telling me
that's a cool gig. I can tell. I mean, I can tell, but I can imagine it's a big time. A lot of pressure on that job for sure. Because Ohio State's great. I mean, I went to UM, so Ohio State's not my favorite, but I know that's the major league program and that's major league pressure.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't like Ohio State either. I grew up even though I graduated from FIU, I grew up a UM fan. So
cool. Right.
I felt that, but I was asking him, a question about how was it, to write about the whole thing about Urban Meyer and how he was leaving and everything. He was telling me straight up, in this industry, in the journalism media industry, you can't be too biased. You have to be direct, and you can't have he was basically saying that you can't really have too much emotions. You have to be straightforward, and it have to be non-biased. You can't write as if you a fan, or you can't write as if you always a critic. You got to be in between. And
exactly.
And I was just like, that's crazy. And like, I look at Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless and all these analysts that were journalists before, and you see them on TV now, and like they even talk about their history, growing up in the industry as far as like writing and things like that. And they all say the same thing, like it's radio ground, and you have to build trust with other people.
Exactly, it's all about building relationships, and which kind of alluded to it a little bit before, but yeah, definitely.
So.
I'm sorry.
No, you go. My bad.
It's okay. I was just saying one thing to add too. Like, I actually thought that's where you were going. I thought you were going to go in this direction. When you're also in the media journalism, you're basically on call like 24/7 because anything can happen. And it's a crazy job. Another thing I would say is like I know with me when it comes to like when an idea comes in my head for an article, like if I'm working on a project and like a sentence or like an opening of something comes into my head, I have to get that out immediately. It's kind of like a weird thing with me where like I have to get it on paper, or else if I don't do it within like a minute, it'll like leave my brain.
Right.
So it's kind of I don't know if that ever happens to you if you're trying to conceptualize something or if you're trying to figure out a show idea or whatever. I mean, I don't know if that's. Maybe I'm just wired like weirdly. But yeah.
Wait, repeat that.
No, I was saying I don't know if I'm just like wired different. Like I'm just like a crazy person where like I need to get an idea, like I need to get it on paper, just like or else it'll leave my brain. I don't know if you're like that. Or,
I'm
what I mean? Like
I'm the same way. Like like just working like in the working with on the podcast and pretty much being like a media person. Like
exactly.
I have to do like I learned like I have to do like as much research as possible. That's another thing that a lot of people don't realize that y'all do.
Yeah.
And I had to like whether it's like anybody that's in sports, anybody that's in any other business, like either they local or well known or if they artists or anything. Like I have to get enough information where the interview could be not just only good on our end, but like encourage other people to listen to more episodes, but also receive the advices that was given within the interview, and just take it and run with it, because that's why I built the platform, so exactly. I'm kind of the same way, like especially like I have certain people I want to interview, I have to make sure that all right. Like, cause me and you, we had to reschedule and stuff, like probably like twice. But I was like, I want to interview him because one, you a content writer, and you write for the Heat. That's home team. But I also wanted to not only for myself to get more insight, but also for like younger people. We already went to college. We already did undergrad, so. There's some kids out there that's in high school that's like, I want to write for a team or for a company, so or a magazine or anything, so.
Definitely, I appreciate that very much. I mean, I'm just someone who's like, again, like the number one thing, like I said, don't ever think you're above your job, and always work at it, work at the craft, and always work hard.
Right.
Because those things will eventually get noticed, and you'll eventually go where you want to be. So those are kind of but the key thing is always don't get discouraged, because. Right. I mean, job market, especially in South Florida, is very difficult because there's so many people here and so many people want to live here. And then that's a whole other part of it that's added on to the fact of it already being the sports industry being tough on top of it. There's also that other added layer. But the key is just don't get discouraged and just keep working at it, because if you keep working on it, you'll get better. And the better you are, then the more, the more attractive you are to potential teams, employers, or recruiters or anything like that.
Yeah, because I have to remind myself that, like, a lot, like, even my wife, like, it's like South Florida in general. You know, a lot of people don't know that it's